Hello, this is Matt Bergman, and you are listening to the Punk Rock Libertarians podcast, episode 51?
51.
51.
51.
I'm here tonight with none other than Jared Schneiderman.
Yep.
And Alexis Schlegel.
Hello.
So I think the big news this week is the goings on in New Hampshire. So first off, Ian Freeman has been kind of excommunicated from the Free State Project. They not only said that they weren't going to let Free Talk Live, every year they do a taping there every day, and they're not going to let LRN, which is like basically Ian's radio network, do anything there. But also, Ian Freeman is banned from all Free State Project events. And I believe he went as far as to take his name off of their registry or whatever.
Their registry?
Or whatever it is.
When you sign up and go there?
Their list.
Yeah.
So I believe that was his doing. Since
So can
he's
you
not allowed
explain
to go to
briefly
events.
who Ian Freeman is for listeners that aren't aware?
Yeah, so Ian Freeman is one of the founders, if not the founder, of Free Talk Live. And I believe they've been going for about, around 10 years now or something.
Wow.
Sound about right?
Yeah, I mean, I started listening to them, it was probably like four or 5 years ago, and they had been going for a while before that.
Yeah, so as far as I know, they're like the largest libertarian podcast, listened to every day. I believe they're on like 6 nights a week.
Yeah, and they're also syndicated, I believe.
Yeah, they're on a couple radio stations. Well, quite a few actually, throughout the country. Probably
Yeah, so
at odd hours or, kind of. But yeah, syndicated throughout the U.S. on radio stations. But what else you got, man? What else is going on?
Yeah,
the
man.
Situation.
So basically, yeah, Ian's been banned from all Free State Project events, and this is all over a conversation that was going on during Free Talk Live, and apparently the conversation's been going on for like off and on. Like Ian will bring up the topic every so often, and so the thing is, Ian doesn't agree with age of consent laws.
Okay. Right. So, I mean, basically on the podcast, at least the part that I heard, or the radio show that I heard, that was brought up. I forget what the context was, but as you said, it had been brought up before. And so, it was a listener called in and asked him about it, and the listener then said, so what you're saying is that if a 6-year-old agrees to have sex with a 50-year-old, then that's okay. And Ian basically said, yeah.
Not really, though. I mean,
but he didn't say no.
Actually, he said that he said something to the effect of that he would abhor that sort of behavior.
He would abhor it, but it's the right of the 6-year-old to make that decision. Is basically what he insinuated. He was like, individuals have the right to make their own decisions, which in that context is saying a 6-year-old can choose to have sex with a 50-year-old.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's,
Look, I get what he's saying as far as they're like age of consent laws as they exist are fucked up, and they result in all sorts of ridiculous shit like 16-year-olds that send nude selfies of each other, and then they both end up going to jail over it. And I forget where this happened, but, a 16-year-old sent like a nude selfie, and then he got charged with child pornography for taking pictures of himself. So that derives from all these age of consent laws.
I think it was actually like a 17-year-old, and since he was so close to being 18, they charged him as an adult. But for owning child pornography of himself. So if he's so close to 18, you're going to try him as an adult. I mean, if you're going to try him as an adult, can he really get in trouble can an adult get in trouble for dick pics?
Right.
It just totally made like no fucking sense.
So I mean, I understand the skepticism around like government's age of consent laws in that sense, but I mean, there has to be, and whether it's determined by biology or psychology or whatever, but there has to be a limit where even like in a free society, we have to say it's not acceptable for a 50-year-old to have sex with a 6-year-old, or even like a 14-year-old. But hey, maybe that line is actually at 16.
No, like, I mean,
maybe it's at 18. We don't know, because we have the government that just arbitrarily determines this shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, personally, I'm a 35-year-old, and I a teenager, it's like, it seems like fucking crazy,
Yeah.
It's but it's, I don't know, like, I feel like there's a lot of gray in the issue as well. It's basically like, who's to say that when somebody like turns 18, like on this day, right then, it's okay,
Yeah.
And then, so actually where this whole Free Talk Live discussion kind of came about recently, there's somebody up in New Hampshire, he's a Free State Project member, and I believe he ran for some sort of political office up there too, or he might have even been an official in some way. But he apparently messaged, I believe it was like a 15-year-old girl or a 16-year-old girl, somewhere around that age, basically about having a threesome with his wife.
How old is this guy?
This guy, I believe, is like 30 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, so, these are all, I don't know, you guys can probably Google this and find it out if you care, but I'm trying to get, this is what I remember about the story.
Yeah.
So, but so this kind of sparked all this conversation recently, and then, of course, Ian doesn't shy away from the topic, whereas a lot of people would, And, like, I was even thinking, like, before we did this podcast, is that something that we really want to talk about? Because, some people, if you question that, the age of consent law, like, which I think it's kind of ridiculous for somebody to say, well, on this day right here, it's okay,
Right, but to play kind of status advocate, I guess. But, I mean, I would even endorse something like this. I mean, there has to be somewhat arbitrary line as a society that we have to create where, yeah, there may be like a 15-year-old that's fully sexually mature and mentally mature and emotionally mature, that they can make that decision. But for the vast amount of 15-year-olds, they might not be able to make that decision. Now, I mean, how do we determine something like that? I mean, ideally, we should be able to do it through some sort of scientific method, just to determine just a general guideline. And then maybe if a 15-year-old wants to, like, and I know it sounds kind of crazy, but, like, pass some sort of test that proves that they're able to consent, I mean, who knows what...
like who makes up this test, dude? The state?
Well, I'm talking in a free society. I mean, there could be some sort of independent...
Some sort of market test.
Yeah, some sort of independent
standardized
group that comes up with some sort, and who knows what the future, someday we'll be able to look at a brain and just tell everything about that person, just
like
from the brain.
A privately standardized test.
Yeah, something like that. What? I mean, but I mean, there has to be some protection of minors, I think, and there is definitely a point where most minors are incapable of making that decision for themselves.
Well, I kind of like, I think there's the other end of it too, where, what if you're like a 12-year-old kid and you're getting abused by your parents and you want to leave that, if you want to leave that household, should you have that right or not because you're a kid? Like, should you have the right to consent to leave there?
Can the child prove that they're being abused? I mean, there would have to be some sort of proof that the child is being abused, and that's just not the child bitching because, they can't listen to their fucking radio at night or something. Or can't, eat all the fucking cookies in the jar, like, I mean, if they're beaten and bruised and it's obvious or whatever, or there's some other way to prove it, then yeah, I mean, they should be. Now we're getting into the territory of like child protective services, which pretty much most libertarians think is not good in most cases. In a lot of cases, I mean, you have cases where like a child gets taken away from their parents because they're smoking weed, which is absolutely fucking ridiculous. So I mean, if we're going back into ANCAP land or voluntary land, I mean, ideally the society or the community would take care of that and notice like this child is being abused. We need to intervene and do something to the parents. So,
What about like, like another law, like what if like you're like a young child and your mom's sick and you want to get a after school job,
right.
but you're 12 years old.
I mean, I think you should be able to work.
If you're 12 years old, dude, it's child labor, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's, I mean,
If you're
That's-
willing to do it.
I mean, that's a different
so
kind
many
of...
people would just hear that right now and think, libertarians, fucking libertarians.
Well, look, I'm not like going to start a company and just go out and like start hiring 12-year-olds,
Well,
just for
I
cheap
mean,
labor, but...
What if you're improving their life and
Right.
helping them improve their status?
No, I mean, look, if I was a business owner and... I mean, like, there are businesses right now that...
I'm just pointing
if
out.
you're
I'm just pointing out that's another law
Yeah.
that right now, like the state says, you got to be like 14, and then you got to get a worker's permit. But I'm just saying it might not always help.
Also, but there is a way around that, though. If it's a family business, I think you can employ your children at a lower age than that. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm pretty positive that they have a workaround for that. But yeah, I mean, if in the scenario you're talking about, I mean, yeah, I think the kid should be able to get a job. But it's different than like, forcing a kid to like work on a railroad or something. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Ian makes the argument that when he was like, I believe he says 11 years old, he his first sexual encounter was with a 16-year-old, or maybe it was a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I think he said-
It's one or the other. So, and Ian says that he consented. Ian says that he's the one that snuck out of his bedroom at night and
Yeah.
climbed into the other boy's bedroom. And, and he's like a 30-year-old man now, and he doesn't regret that. That's Ian's opinion. And then the dude that was talking to him on the radio show was like, "Whoa, you just have Stockholm syndrome. You're a victim." Blah, blah. And Ian got really pissed off.
Yeah.
And you can tell like Mark Edge was he's another host on the show, and he basically said, "Oh, I hate it when Ian brings up these conversations," and he's even posted stuff recently where it's like, "Yeah, the advertising's falling off." You can kind of tell he's like complaining a little bit. And who can really blame him, because it's
Yeah.
not even something that I'm too hot on talking about here, but I feel like, to Ian's credit, I feel like it does need to be talked about, because there are some like ridiculous scenarios going on right now with that. And then, I guess it was a couple days after this happened, the FBI actually raided Ian's home, aka Free Talk Live Studios, and stole all the computers and some electronics.
Wow. Why? Just was there a warrant? Like, or what was the reasoning?
Okay, so
So-
then it even gets more crazy. Like, I found out about this like Saturday morning. Somebody on Facebook sent me and some other people like a private message that the FBI are at Free Talk Live Studios right now. And I was like, "Oh, do you think I should write about this for the Daily Liberator?" And Rich Paul was in the discussion too, and he was like, "Oh, sure." He's like, I think they want people to know, So, and then like we posted the article with the video actually that Pete Iyer wrote for Free Talk Live right after that went up, and you actually get to see the FBI carrying out computers as Free Staters heckled them.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, but
It's like, are you going to take any people with you or something like that?
yeah, did you read into why the FBI raided the house?
I mean, all I heard was speculation.
Well, of course, everybody was speculating,
But I've
because
heard, like,
Ian's had this
discussion-
conversation, everybody's saying, well, it must be kitty porn.
Well, I
And-
heard something that there had already been an ongoing investigation.
Yeah,
Like a 6-month or 12-month investigation. But then it's like, okay, so then they use this exact moment to attack,
Right. Seems a little
I mean, it
too,
seemed a little what?
Yeah, it just seems like a little too, like, the timing of it, if that's been going on that long, like, why
Yeah.
all of a sudden?
yeah, well, apparently, So this is basically from Free Talk Live. Apparently, just reported on this in like the past month. Apparently, in early 2015, for 30 days, the FBI set up a website called Playpen, and Playpen was like some kiddie porn website. So the U.S. government put this porn out there on the internet and distributed it to people, and then the people that they distributed the porn to, then they go and bust. But if child pornography is sharing pictures of children and the government distributed that, doesn't that make them criminals?
Yeah, I would say so. I wonder how they...
Wouldn't they be exploiting children?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
now, did they... I mean, I don't think they actually shot the porn themselves, did they? Not that makes it any better, but... Well, it makes it a little bit better, right?
No, but dude, think of all the people that are busted for kiddie porn who didn't shoot the porn themselves.
Exactly.
They just downloaded a fucking picture off the internet.
Right. Well, that sort of raises another tough gray area.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't find it to be abhorrent behavior. I do find it to be abhorrent behavior.
Right.
But it's somebody looking at a picture. It's essentially a thought crime. Like is it a
but I could argue. You could argue.
What could you argue?
I would argue that by looking at it, you're creating the demand for it. I mean, if nobody was downloading these pictures, there would be no demand for it, and thus... But then we're getting into like a whole economic argument, where is it like the demand creates
I think you're
the
always going to
supply?
have sick motherfuckers.
Yeah. And then there's also the argument that having it out there like actually keeps these guys from like going out and actually touching real kids, but I'm not saying that justifies it. I'm just saying that's
but
been said before.
that is an argument.
Yeah.
I've thought of that argument before myself. So it's basically
I mean, if they could just do it with CGI, like if it was just CGI child porn, I don't know, maybe it would at least be better, right?
If somebody I guess it's
when did the FBI distribute? Like, it was just as of...
I believe this was early 2015, and they raided Free Talk Live Studios apparently because it's like the IP came back to a computer on their internet service.
Wait, say that again?
I'm not sure if that made sense, but it's basically the FBI were able to trace that somebody was looking on the website using
to an IP
using Free Talk Live's internet.
Okay.
So
yeah, I mean that's certainly possible.
But this took place in early 2015, and apparently dozens of different people potentially had the password that they were using at that time. So it could have been any one of a number of different people.
Right.
So the FBI...
Well, yeah, they're not going to be able to prove... if it's a public computer like that... Well,
the FBI, they confiscated the computers, and if one of the computers that they confiscated turns out to be the one, I guess then they'll take that from there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, who knows what they're doing to these computers while they're confiscated.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily just drop a picture on there, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, but other information,
Yep, totally.
That's not related. That could be completely unrelated to... Yeah. But, I mean, was there I guess you said it was like an ongoing investigation. I mean, they issued a warrant?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jeez.
I would think there'd be a warrant.
Yeah, I believe they came at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Man. So that's the latest.
This is dark shit, dude. Oh, man. Fuck that shit, dude. Fuck all that shit.
Or could have been like just a setup all along.
Well, I mean could have. I don't know. Nothing to do with it, but
get these radicals off the radio.
Yep.
And to get them off the radio and then discredit.
So
what easier way than, not easy, but false accusations.
So either of you guys planning to going to Porkfest this year?
You know what? Maybe I will this year. Because I'm not going to Bonnaroo this year.
Why, dude?
Because the lineup's not that great.
Oh, how about you, Alex?
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of torn on this year, dude.
Well, now that they're because they're banning FTL?
It's well, essentially, like I don't like that they banned Ian. You know, I'm not the hugest Cantwell fan either, to say the least. But I never liked that they banned Cantwell.
Yeah, but do you understand why they banned those guys?
Do I understand? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I understand what they said, but
But do you understand where they're coming from, or you think it's
personally,
still bullshit?
like, I wouldn't have banned. Okay, so let's go again. Why did they ban Cantwell?
I actually don't remember.
I mean,
said some racist shit, bro.
It's basically because like he justified violence. He justified violence against
cops.
Well, in self-defense, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
But so did Larkin Rose. Did he get banned too?
I believe now Rose is banned, from what I've heard.
Okay. Yeah.
So, that was the whole thing last year. Like, people were like, well, if you're going to ban Cantwell, I mean, you got to ban Larkin too, right? You know, because Larkin was like, you know, open about that first, I would say, you know?
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, now they're banning Ian. Now, Ian is not like, you know, they're banning Ian for speech. They're banning Ian for conveying an idea. They're banning Ian for asking controversial questions.
Right.
So, I mean, dude, yeah, they're banning Ian for speech.
Yeah. I mean, clearly it's speech. I mean, he didn't do anything. Assuming that he didn't look at kiddie porn. I mean, he didn't do anything.
Well, plus too, they're banning a guy who gets a lot of listeners every day. A guy who possibly brought more people to New Hampshire than anyone.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's the guy that they chose to ban. So, you know, I don't like the idea of that. And then now, like a lot of friends that I know are even contemplating on. Actually, a lot of them are even just saying that they're not going to go this year.
Is anybody leaving the Free State?
I've heard of nobody leaving over it. I think the whole reason why people aren't going to go is because of the quote, the Free State Project, the LLC or whatever, if it is, you know, but the actual organization.
I got you.
You know, people are still about the idea of libertarians moving to New Hampshire, getting together, hanging out, practicing agorism, you know, having fun.
See, this is the problem whenever you create these fucking organizations, man. Like, this is, you know, like the whole Occupy thing, and then the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Dude.
What?
That's why we need anarchy, dude.
Yeah.
If people want to organize, then organize. But I mean, we don't need. You don't need like branding and shit.
Just like I was. Yeah, I mean, I was a huge Ron Paul supporter in 2008, and then once you started Campaign for Liberty, and I was really involved in that. But then it just got. The more people you bring in, and the more you try to appeal to people, and then like issues get watered down, or it's just you get a bunch of people together. It's just I don't know. It's hard to.
I mean, I think you got to keep it to the point where you just have like, look, we all share the same like philosophy, but once you start like adding on all sorts of extra bullshit on top of that, that's when it starts to break down. When you're like, well, the Free State represents this, and you're doing this, so now you're not a part of the Free State. Where it's like, well, wait, hold on, is what I'm doing, in violation of the NAP? Is what I'm doing a violation of libertarianism or anarchy? No. Then what the fuck is the problem?
Well, so a lot of people are just, a lot of people are talking about not going. Like, I believe I heard somebody say that they had over 1,000 people going on, like, the event invite page, and now they're down to, like, 400. So.
What did they have initially?
Like, over 1,000.
Oh, wow.
On the event invite page. But now they're down to 400. So I don't know. That's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah, I mean, they only get how many people to go there, anyways. I
believe the most that they've had is about 1,500 people.
Yeah. So.
But then again,
600 people. I mean, it is Facebook, but.
Yeah.
I mean, when someone
Facebook
voluntarily, when someone makes it a point to like, say they're not going to an event, disinvite themselves from an event. I mean, that's indicative of some sort of trend, I would think.
Yeah, especially like when you got to travel hours and hours to get there.
Right.
It's so yeah. It seems like right now, like at this point, a lot of people are pretty mad, and they're talking about not going. And then that's even people that live in New Hampshire.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's still early. I mean, not early. What do we got? March, about 3 months away, June. So,
Yeah.
I mean, things could change, but in the wake of this incident, yeah, that's pretty drastic. I mean, a drop off of that many people saying they're not going to go. That's pretty telling.
Well,
I would really like to go though, man. But
no,
if
I mean,
it's gonna be fucked up like that, I don't want to be.
Yeah,
It's gonna have that vibe going. Where
dude,
it's like
I would really
people are
like to go
angry.
too. For me, like Free State Project is like Christmas every year, you know.
Pork
And
Fest.
yeah, Pork Fest is like Christmas.
Matt looks forward to.
Yeah,
He unwraps his anarchy presents.
I mean, dude, it's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah,
It's essentially it's a week of anarchy, just hanging out in the woods with a bunch of libertarians, you know.
Yes.
Talking about God knows what, you know.
Yeah.
And it's really fun times, you know. It's great food and good people. So, but
Well, I guess we'll see. We have time, right?
yeah. I mean, like I totally want to go. I know I was talking to John Vibes about it today, and we might even just get together in Maryland like that week if we end up not going.
You guys have your own little.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm down.
He said we'll like hang out for a couple of days. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we could set up like camping or something. It could be pretty cool. We could probably do it over his place.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fucking awesome.
Right on. All right.
So, yeah, so you know, I don't know, that kind of pisses me off because like Pork Fest is pretty awesome, and it looks like that's kind of fucked. And then apparently at every Free State Project meeting, Ian Freeman was basically kicked out or whatever by this Free State Project board,
Yeah.
which exists of I believe it's about like 6 or 7 individuals, and apparently they hold minutes for all their meetings, like everything's recorded. And then, so a bunch of people on Facebook today were tagging people on the board saying, "Hey, come on, produce the minutes. We want to see who voted Ian out." And nobody would respond.
See, when you have a fucking board, that's
Yeah, there's no transparency. There's no transparency. Okay, so you have this recorded meeting, and people are this pissed off. People that have a lot of people who have agreed to move their entire life to this state to be a part of your club. And you can't give these people transparency?
Yeah.
And
I mean, at least
you're
own
fucking
your decision.
libertarians? Yeah.
At least own your decision. Say, look, we think this guy is advocating for pedophilia, and we kicked him out.
But they
Boom.
won't. It's fucking weak. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of question going on about why. And apparently, the Free State Project now is running off of some Koch brother money.
Oh, it's always the Koch brothers.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Those evil the evil Koch brothers are at it again.
No, well, you know, at the same time, you know, I mean, I think it's fucking cool. You know, we need to have more libertarian billionaires. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's awesome. They're throwing money in, but there seems to be the speculation of with them getting so big, you know, they might not want to piss off anybody, and they might not want to lose any funds. Blah blah blah.
No, that could be very
But
much the case, man.
I still don't understand why not just own the decision. I mean, it's not hard to sell. Like, look, this guy, we think this guy, what he's saying is dangerous and it advocates pedophilia. I mean, you could easily make that argument. And yeah, people are going to disagree with it, but seems to me to be a way better option than just like not saying anything.
Yeah. Not recording the meeting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, do we want to move on? So, you want to talk about this McAfee video about Belize, Matt?
Yeah. So apparently today, you know, I just saw this a little while ago. John McAfee posted a video to YouTube where he was talking about his side of the story from Belize. So, and apparently he was asked for a $2 million donation to the Belize government, and then the next day, you know, he told them that no, and that they shot his dog right in front of him. And they ransacked his property and made him stand on his knees with his hands up for like 14 hours, apparently. It sounds pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, you know, what's the whole controversy? Like, people say that he killed his neighbor.
Yeah, I heard something like he murdered some woman and like hid her body in the jungle of Belize or whatever.
I've never heard that. But
I mean, it's probably bullshit.
there's all sorts of stories going on about this. So.
I mean, if you're talking about, you know, the Belize government trying to bribe or trying to extort him, I mean, anything, they could have made up any story and just propagated it through their media, and then some other media caught on to it, and who the fuck knows what happened.
But yeah,
I mean, he doesn't seem like a guy that would murder people, but I mean, I don't hang out
he
with
doesn't.
him.
What was he living there? How long was he living there? And how did it, like, come about?
Didn't he, like, sell the company and then move down there? Like, whenever that happened, like 15 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, you know, I'm not totally sure how long he was there for. I thought it was like a couple years, but it could be wrong.
Maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess he was just clearing the air, just...
Yeah, he was just trying to put his side of the story out there. Because, you know, there is a lot of talk. Because even, you know, even now, it seems like it would make one hell of a movie.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy makes himself a millionaire, or is he a billionaire? No, he's probably just a millionaire.
Yeah.
Off of a software company, moves to Belize, gets all crazy with the government and shit, and now he's running for president.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Personally, I like the dude. I think he's fun conversation.
Yeah.
So
I enjoy listening to him.
totally.
What's your take on this, man? You've been a little quiet tonight.
Yeah, man, I'm a little out of it. I don't know. Like, I really don't know much about the guy, but I mean, what brief interviews I saw, but as of late, he's definitely, you know, on board with civil liberties, and I mean, he's clearly on point with the whole cybersecurity and enjoying everything he's been saying about, you know, the current Apple situation.
Mm-hmm.
And he definitely has a handle on it. It's just that one interview, you know, it's interesting, like how he brings up the cybersecurity issue, and just how vulnerable we are. And mainly it's because of, you know, that the world's best hackers and those in that realm are not working for the government.
Right.
So it's pretty. He's got a, you know, definitely. That's definitely his. Like, I've been joining him on those issues, but I really don't know much about him otherwise. But yeah, man, he's definitely an entertaining dude. But
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta see this video that you're talking about, man.
yeah, definitely. You can find it on the Daily Liberator. So, Jared, you wanted to talk about your girl, Hillary?
My girl. Yes, so Hillary admitted... was it an interview or was it at the debate?
It was in an interview with Chris Matthews, I believe.
Okay, yeah, on MSNBC.
Yeah.
She admitted that she basically took a $20 billion bribe to vote to go to Iraq.
Well, she got $20 billion for her state of New York when she was
Right.
a senator there.
Which is basically a $20 billion bribe.
Yeah, and that was in trade for her vote to go to Iraq.
Right.
So that's her justification of back in the Iraq War when Bernie didn't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like politics as usual. Not super surprised.
Not at all. It is funny to see it come out there and be in the spotlight for a little bit.
Yeah, it was cool how he was really, like, laying into her on... the part that we were watching earlier...
Yeah, he was giving her a hard time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was asking her, like, so who told you that there were WMDs in Iraq? And she just gave some, like, convoluted answer where she didn't really answer it. And she was, like, saying, oh, well, you know, there was inspectors, and the inspectors didn't say what was happening. And he was like, so who told you? She was like, just kept spitting that same fucking yarn about it. And yeah.
Yeah, he had her backpedaling all over the place.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you feel about these taxation as theft memes?
Dude, they're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like, dude, every day I go on, it's just blown away. Saw the new one, the Christmas Story with Ralphie with the decoder ring. Brilliant. I was like,
dude, I'm thinking about just collecting like a whole bunch of good ones, and then on tax day, just fucking unleashing them on the world.
oh yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
that is an excellent idea, dude. We have to do that on tax day.
Dude, we should just post no articles and just
Yeah,
post a
just-
meme every hour.
Just
on the hour.
memes on tax day.
Yeah, I mean,
We can link it. You can link an article.
You can link an article in the comments.
Yeah,
but we'll
dude.
just post memes on fucking what do we call it? Tax day. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
see the one with Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction.
In the car.
No, he's just
Or
it's
no,
at
in
the
the
table when he's
apartment.
trying to get his wallet back. It was the scene when he's getting his wallet back. It was just a still shot, and he's just like, It's the one that says taxation is theft, motherfucker. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, just when you think they can't get any better, someone like comes up with.
A lot of them are coming from that Liberty memes page.
Yeah,
They're pretty solid.
So.
Nice. Yeah, I love that, dude, because that shit can go viral and so many people see it, and hopefully we'll introduce more people to these ideas.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's like that's a statement I feel like that needs to be brought up. You know,
Definitely, man. But it's just like it's opening up. Like I posted a couple. I just posted one the other day from the Dazed and Confused scene with Matthew McConaughey, and another dude was like,
"Oh yeah, I saw that."
He's just like, you know, taxation is theft. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. Like, of course, like, all right. So one of my friends on Facebook, she's a little, I don't know, probably a Bernie supporter, pretty much like on board on most like civil liberties, etc. But I don't know, definitely more progressive. But she's like, I don't get this. I might be dense, but I don't get what this is about.
I actually saw that. I saw that comment.
Yeah, and I'm like, I was like, what's more to explain? Taxation is theft. Like,
well, I think she asked the question. She was like, aren't your taxes basically you're paying for like the public services that you receive?
Yeah, like, oh, it's part of a, going down the road, like
the social contract thing, basically.
Yeah, like who build the roads, and it's like, you know what, like,
yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, some people have never really thought about that before,
right.
So it does. I think it is helpful if someone asks you that to like actually explain it to them. Like, look, I mean.
Yeah,
it's different than paying for a service, because when I pay for a service, I'm voluntarily contracting or transacting with you for that service. Whereas with taxation, I don't have an option. It's just I just so happen to be living in this piece of land on the face of the earth that some group of people has decided that they control.
Right.
Some group of people with the most guns has decided they control, and therefore I have to pay a fee so that I don't get thrown in jail.
Well, and like most individuals that make that argument, I mean, I get it to a point, but it's like, I see it as a cost of living to society. Like, who will then pay for things like the roads, fire, EMS, education? Not just for my kid, but for the masses in society. Well, I look at it like, oh, that's all great, fine, and good that you think your taxes are just going to all these wonderful things like roads and education and, police and firefighters, but it's also going to our FBI to set up like kiddie porn sting operations and fucking drone bombs
distribute child pornography.
Right. Our taxes are going to like fucking
and create criminals.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if our taxes
to fill the private prisons.
Right. Like our taxes are going to other shit like invading and occupying countries for decades and drone strikes on a daily basis and fucking all this other shit. It's like, I didn't volunteer for that. Like, I didn't say like, oh, please have my taxes go to our lovely public education, our lovely public school and our police station and our wonderful roads in our county. No, it also is going to all this other bullshit.
Yeah. Well. Plus, okay, it's universally recognized that keeping 100% of the goods of someone's labor is slavery. Keeping 100% is slavery, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, at what percentage does it not become slavery anymore?
Yeah.
So, in the very least, right now we're living in a soft slavery, if you will. Mm-hmm. And when you think about all the taxes that are taken out of your check, and then the taxes that are taken when you spend that money, and how the money's taxed over and over again, and then it's taxed again when you die, and it's taxed even harder if you're worth over $600,000.
Yeah.
It's we are living in a soft slavery. It's not actual chain slavery, but at some point in time, they realize that they'll get better results out of people if people have incentives.
Yeah, if people are free enough where they can have a good standard of living and enjoy life, but at the same time, sort of tacitly agree to just like give up a portion of their income.
Yep. So, I mean, in the very least, of course, we want to reduce that as much as possible.
Right. Which kind of brings us to the next topic, which is Walter Block's argument for Trump.
Walter Block's he made a group. He introduced us to Lou Rockwell last week. And the group is entitled Libertarians for Trump. And I believe he said like 500 people signed up or something in the first day or something. I don't know.
Wait, is it a Facebook group?
I don't think it's a Facebook group. I think it was just something that he was calling for on Lou Rockwell. So this has been spread around. I saw an article with, I believe it was Mike Reed interviewed Walter Block, and he was just asking him about Libertarians for Trump. And, Mike Reed was being pretty hard on him, He was saying probably a lot of the same things that I would say, But Walter Block's entire argument is, and, with Block, too, I want to put out there, first off, I tend to agree with the guy, probably 98% of the time. I like the guy a lot. I think he's really smart. He's a fucking college professor and shit. And also, I mean, he seems like a really nice dude as well. I like him. But his argument is, he says, he would rather support Rand Paul than Donald Trump. He would rather support Gary Johnson than Donald Trump. But he was leaving it to the people who could actually become president. And Rand Paul is out at this point. He doesn't, and, it's doubtful that the Libertarian Party is going to get the win.
Yeah.
So, for him, out of the people who could actually become president, essentially, Trump is better than Hillary.
Or Bernie.
He didn't necessarily say Bernie. He basically said that he could even go for Bernie, because he believes Bernie to be less of a warmonger than Hillary.
Yeah, he is.
And he said, he basically said Murray Rothbard convinced him that, that's the most important issue. Killing people is the most important issue, and I think that makes sense. I agree with that.
So he's looking at Trump's foreign policy.
So, but he also said, so then Mike Reed was like, well, why don't you have a group, Libertarians for Bernie? And to which Walter Block replied, well, it's hard enough to sell libertarians to vote for a Republican. It's going to be even harder to get them to vote for a communist. And
although there are a lot that are, though, that's the thing.
No, but
I don't know if I agree with that.
But he was even saying, he was like, I like my man Bernie. He's like, I could go along with Bernie. Because that's the thing about Bernie. It's like, how much is Bernie going to be able to get done with a Republican Congress?
Yeah. And maybe it'll just be the positive things.
Yeah, I just found some excerpts of the article, and I guess basically Walter Block's reasoning is, he's like, as Murray Rothbard and Bob Higgs have demonstrated over and over again, U.S. foreign policy determines what occurs in economics and in the field of personal liberties. Writes a senior fellow of Ludwig von Mises Institute. Foreign policy is a dog that wags the other two tails. So I guess he's looking at this from a foreign policy perspective.
Well, it's really
that's the key.
So he's looking at it from a
pragmatic, less harm,
right? Like a pragmatic perspective.
Who would do less harm out of who?
Right.
Most likely will become the president.
Yeah, the only thing is and we've talked about, the virtues of non-voting and how voting can be interpreted as an endorsement of the system. So, if we continue to just try and pick essentially the lesser of two evils, or three evils maybe in this case, if Bernie can get the nom, how much longer can we go down that road before it's let's just stop, is this really productive to vote for anybody? Or is it more productive to just go out and just try and convince people not to vote, or try and do other things and spend your energy on other things aside from voting? And I know voting is just you show up to the poll one day. I guess, but it's more about getting the idea out there. If you're just getting this idea out there that let's just be pragmatic about this, then are you not compromising a more principled position and the idea of just a principled libertarian non-aggression principle? What do you think, Matt? Do you get what I'm saying?
No, I get what you're saying, dude. But I believe I read in some town it was fucking 10% of the people showed up to vote, and they got to elect, their officials. So, like,
You're saying
essentially,
they still like the election still counted or whatever?
oh yeah, of course. What the fuck else are they going to do? You know, I mean, I don't just not voting. I don't think necessarily would solve it. It's personally. I mean,
But I
personally,
mean, at what point? Let me ask you this: like, at what point does? I mean, are we looking at anarchy at any time in human history from now on, like as a possibility? And if so, like, how do you get there if you continue to participate in the system? Is it just going to have to be like a fucking violent revolution? Is it going to have to be like a total economic collapse and then from the dust rises anarchy? Or is it? Or do we just have to accept that like it's never going to happen, and all we can do is choose the lesser of two evils from here to the time the fucking sun explodes or whatever?
well, you know, the only violence that I would condone is that of defense, and so you know, I'm not condoning a quote unquote violent revolution. You know,
Yeah, but I mean, you can make the argument that that is defense.
yeah, you could, you know, but I mean, I think you can do a lot with you know, just talking to people,
Right.
you know, just talking to your friends, your neighbors, just all sorts of
So-
people.
so as we're talking to
spreading these ideas, I
Sure.
feel like voting is just one thing that you can do. It's not even necessarily the most important thing that you can do, but it is one thing that you can do. I think you'd probably make a better difference to the world sharing thoughtful Facebook articles or sharing taxation as theft memes. You know, if you can reach a person that way, you know. I mean,
But do you not think that voting could be harmful?
no, I don't.
Okay.
Even if you, I mean, like, you know,
Unless you vote for like the most hawkish person, then you'd be harmful.
I mean,
in a sense.
Honestly, I guess it might come down to like whoever you can. Like, I feel like it is productive in a way. So I feel like in 2016, you know, if it's Hillary versus Trump, you know, I feel like there's a lot of Republicans who have already vowed they're going to vote third party if that's the case.
Yeah.
So you know, that could mean the biggest year ever for Gary Johnson.
Okay, yeah,
and
that I
Libertarians.
understand, but I think like, but the idea of like voting for someone like Trump in that scenario, because like a vote for Gary is essentially an ideological vote.
I mean,
or a vote for whoever's the Libertarian Party person is.
It's not a strategy that I would. It's not a strategy that I would entertain for my personal, you know, for like for myself, and it's not a strategy that I would say, hey guys, try this, you know, for anybody else. But I mean, at the same time, you know, like, you know, I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, with at the same time, you know, the thing about Trump is, you know, no matter what he says, I feel like he's just like a politician in that he is a politician, and you
can't trust
you can't trust him. You can't trust that he's actually going to go along with what he says.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like you can either go for Hillary, who you pretty much know what you're gonna get.
I'll just
But
vote
you're gonna
for
get a
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just vote for Johnson.
Right.
And you know, like I want to bring this up again. I feel like people really need to push ranked choice voting. People need to tell your friends about ranked choice voting. That's the best thing that you can do. Tell your friends about ranked choice voting.
Dude, let's buy a billboard.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking the Koch brothers should buy billboards. You know, you know, a lot of them. You know, instead of investing in the Free State Project, buy a bunch of ranked choice voting billboards. You know, these are ways to. That's a great way to open up competition and to produce better politicians. You know, I mean, and you could be an anarchist, and I could be one too, and you know, I could you know, think all of government's a waste of time, but you know, if we're not going to be able to end it anytime soon, at least maybe we can try to make it a little bit better.
Sure.
And I think we've already made it better as far as the drug war. We're legalizing weed all over the place, you know, and we're not advocating throwing people in a cage for having the wrong type of vegetation in their pocket, you know. I think we're winning the drug war, you know. And I feel like the way we're doing that is we're changing the minds of our friends or family and our neighbors. We're getting these ideas out there, and people aren't standing for it. So you're seeing the Republican and Democratic parties having to please the public, because the politicians will only get away with what we let them get away with.
Right.
So you know, if you could change the mind of the public, I think that's the way to go, man. Fucking ideas, you know. That's why Ron Paul was all about a message. You know, and he was successful. If we want to pick up where he left off, and if we want to keep, you know, keep expanding upon this movement, let's get those ideas out there.
Church.
Cool.
So you want to hit this last topic here?
Sure, dude.
So it's been pretty much all over the news. An American student was sentenced in North Korea to 15 years of hard labor for stealing a propaganda poster out of the hotel he was staying in. Did you see the video of him getting him confessing?
I'm just finding out about this right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Alex,
Yeah.
get off Facebook for a second.
Oh no, I was looking it up. I was trying to get the dude.
Oh, sure, dude. Alex,
Yeah.
get off Playpen.
Get off Facebook. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I mean that's basically the story, but dude, you gotta watch the video. Like, it's like this weird confession where he's like, you know, super apologetic to like the North Korean government, and he's like basically in tears, and you just see like all these like North Korean military people around him just like stone faced. It was like super creepy to watch.
Yeah, he's
But dude, the worst part about it is like the people that are like in America that are like, well, that's what you get. You're breaking the rules of the country you're in. Like that somehow justifies fucking 15 years of I think he's got to be planting apple trees for 15 years.
Oh fuck that! That's what they're saying. No, I don't know. I mean, North Korea. There's.
Well, I mean that's not.
Some of the
I mean, it
stories you
sounds
hear from-
easy, but I mean it's probably backbreaking work to be fucking digging up and planting goddamn apple trees everywhere. I mean, yeah, it's not breaking rocks in a quarry, but whatever they're gonna do to him, I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, was he an asshole for? I don't know. Actually, I think it's kind of hilarious, but
I mean,
is it dumb? Yeah, it was really dumb, clearly. But you know, it's just while we're over here worried about like, you know, Russia. I mean, fucking Kim Jong Il or Un is, you know, just running this fucking hellhole on Earth.
Yeah, apparently.
And they also just like something just happened with like he was taking pictures with like a nuclear weapon they have or something. I don't know. I didn't dig into that article, but
You know,
I don't know, man. It's
we were
fucking
talking
crazy.
earlier about touching on the whole Gary Johnson Sharia Law thing.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So, I believe it was yesterday. He was at some LP debate in Pennsylvania, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was questioned by this Muslim libertarian dude about, you know, since the guy was basically saying, well, you know, Gary, since you have all these strong opinions about Sharia law, you know, why don't you tell us about the 5 points of Sharia law? and then Gary Johnson's essentially gives a really fucking weak answer.
Yeah.
You know, and he says, well, you know, it was just earlier actually that I Googled Sharia law in the Constitution.
Right.
And it's like, okay, dude, so you have these opinions, you're going to be president, and, you know, you have these harsh opinions, and you're going to base it off of what you just Googled earlier. You know, and it sounded like you landed on some like GOP propaganda website, you know,
Right.
and then I got to say Daryl Perry and like Daryl Perry was much better on the issue. You know, he's like Sharia law, it's voluntary. It only affects people that are, you know, voluntarily consent to it.
Right.
You know. And it just seems like Johnson's pretty bad on the issue. And I want Johnson to be my guy. Johnson has been my guy since 2012, you know? And, but, you know, I wish he would read up on this, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I kind of feel like he's coming off as an ass, you know? And he's my guy, and I don't like that. And what was the other thing that came out today, too? Apparently, Gary Johnson was at another sort of like debate type thing, and he said that the quote non-aggression principle was over his head. So, and then
Yeah,
you know,
it's a little disconcerting.
well, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, how is
Like-
it any better than what?
but for me, it isn't really that disconcerting because, you know, I've always viewed Gary Johnson as not as much of a philosophical libertarian, but a practical libertarian. You know, so I mean, in a sense, you might even say he's not really. He's not libertarian in the philosophical sense, basically. Okay, so I feel like he's kind of like a dude who's fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
Because out of practicality, and he's socially liberal out of practicality. he sees how these stances are practical, but he's probably not a guy who could tell you about his favorite Murray Rothbard book.
Yeah.
You know, he's probably not a guy who knows very much about Lysander Spooner or Ludwig von Mises, or you know what I mean. As much about the philosophy, he just fucking believes that you should be able to do what you want with your money, and you should be able to do what you want with your body.
Well, okay, but so then how can we sit here and criticize Austin Peterson, aside from him being a douche?
Well,
but
I mean,
specifically on that issue.
At least Austin Peterson knows what the nap is,
And he
totally
repudiates
denies it.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
Exactly. Yeah, so I can say that.
So
and,
yeah, I mean, so you can sort of give Gary a pass on just pure ignorance, basically.
Yeah, but I don't like doing that though, and it's like I still want to be my guy, and right now he still is my guy.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping, like, if somebody's listening to this that can talk to Gary, I'm hoping that they'll say, "Hey, Gary, why don't you read up on the Sharia thing?" And I mean, because really, he's turning a lot of people away. Some people are calling him the libertarian Trump, but I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't understand why he's being
I'm saying
so,
some people are calling
so
him
heavy-handed with it.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I don't either.
Like,
I mean,
it's not. I mean, I get
it's Donald Trump's already heavy-handed enough for everybody on this issue.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to get in there and do that.
I mean, I get it
it's
if you
not
want
very
if you want to
popular
talk about
amongst
the Middle
libertarians
Yeah.
either.
I mean, I get it if you want to talk about the problems of ISIS in the Middle East and maybe criticize. Like, I mean, I've criticized Islam before on this podcast. And, you know, I do believe there is a connection between the religion and what's happening. I don't think it's just a geopolitical thing, but I don't know why he's going around talking about, like, banning burqas and shit like that. Like, I don't understand that whole thing. I mean, you can have an argument, you know, like, if people want to organize and live under Sharia law and they're voluntarily contracting to do it, yeah. And then I bring up the argument, well, but what about the children that are raised in that? In my opinion, they're basically being brainwashed into just accepting this stuff. And is that right? But then you could really extend that to any religion.
Any religion,
And
yeah.
then, I mean, personally, I think it is brainwashing regardless of the religion. But,
and
but I don't condone like locking people up in jail for it. You know what I mean?
and Daryl Perry was quick to point out all these things. Everything that you just said.
Right.
And I kind of feel like Gary Johnson. I was watching him sitting there. I kind of felt like he was listening, and I kind of felt like he was caught with his pants down, and he realized that he should read up on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, talking to Will Coley, you know, that's basically what I told Will Coley, because we talk about this shit all the time. And he was like, yeah, but Johnson's already been confronted on this like 10 times. So I don't know if Will is exaggerating as far as the numbers. Whereas I would say if Johnson's been confronted on this and been told to read up on it like 10 times, I mean, that's pretty fucking sad, you know?
Yeah.
If he hasn't read up on it yet. Because, I mean, this was like...
Or, I mean, if you're not going to read up on it,
This was
just
almost
stop
embarrassing for
talking
him,
about
dude.
it.
Because like one of the other guys on the stage, he was like, he's another dude running for president as a libertarian. You know, he's going for the nomination. I forget the guy's name, but he's saying like Gary Johnson's the only person that I've ever voted for. You know, and he's basically like, Gary Johnson's awesome, but Gary Johnson needs to read up on this. You know,
Yeah.
and I mean, I feel like right there, it's okay, right there, bam, Johnson, listen to that, dude.
Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, if
Daryl Perry, listen to what he said, you know, about Sharia law being voluntary.
Sure.
You know, and you know, Johnson's just got to read up on it, dude, because it's like fucking Austin Peterson's got his libertarian trolls out and about, you know, or who knows, maybe he just has like robots on computers in his basement, in his parents' basement, and you know, posting all this shit to Facebook, but. You know, you got to step it up, Gary. You know, you got to be on your A game. I want to see you get this, and I want to see you get a lot of people behind you. I want you to do the best that you can.
Yeah.
Just read up.
Yeah. I mean, even if you do still hold the same position you do, at least be able to justify it.
Actually, Gary, if you could even go on the Daily Liberator and you could type in Islam and liberty, correct? That's the article that's on there? Yeah, Islam and liberty.
Islam and liberty, comparative analysis.
Yeah. Then you could put that in Google and you could find it on Muslims for Liberty. So, yeah. So I think that's about it for this week. Until next time, live free.
Was it by a few at the expense of the many? So did the gods and the death machine. You can't justify killing by economic gain. For God, country, and Democracy, you can put freedom in gunpoint in a fine land. We support the troops, then bring them home. I believe that you will do the best for you. And I believe that we have the power, have the power. I hate the state, and I know I'm a slave. We can make a break the power, break the power. Society owes individuals nothing more than non-interference with natural rights. Once a virtuous person fully comprehends the non-aggression principle, the violence of the state becomes obsolete.